Let's dive into NFL Week 9. I already talked about the Titans beating the Rams on Sunday Night Football. I talked about the Bears-Steelers on Monday Night Football. Talked about Jordan Love. I talked about the Raiders. But still, there are 5 more things I find noteworthy from NFL Week 9. Number 1 is this. The Patriots beat the Panthers 24-6. It was brutal. And Panthers quarterback Sam Darnold was 16 for 33, which is less than 50%, by the way, with 172 yards and 3 interceptions. It was not a good performance by Sam Darnold. It's brutal. I mean, I would imagine Sam Darnold hates playing the Patriots and Bill Belichick. At this point, he played for the Jets for years, played them twice a year. Now he played them again this year. He's like, can I please escape from Bill Belichick? I hate playing the coach. And I got to say, I have lost all faith in Carolina Panthers young quarterback Sam Darnold. I went into the year very excited. They started 3-0. Now Carolina's 4-5. They're last in the AFC South. And Sam Darnold, he's not working. Like, I'd love him to. I want him to. It's not working. And that's unfortunate, but it's true. Now, the Patriots are starting to look like the Patriots of old. They are boring to watch. No offense, but they are. And, I mean, they're really technical. They do all the little things right. And they're becoming dominant. I mean, I'm watching the Patriots develop in front of our eyes. They got a bunch of new guys and new quarterback, and they are coming together as a football team. And if you ask me, the Patriots are a playoff team, and because it's Bill Belichick and they're really good, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them to make a Super Bowl run because that's just what they do. And they had one down year, and now they're suddenly back into the AFC East playoff conversation. And not to mention the wild card. The AFC is a mess right now, and so man, you got to give respect to New England. What they're doing is fantastic. They've really rebuilt their football team, and the young quarterback, Mac Jones, plays so well. He's just getting better and better and better the more we watch him. Now, Stephon Gilmore, cool story here, playing against his former team. He got traded from New England to Carolina. He got a pick against his former team. They lost horribly, but it was still kind of cool to see that guy have success against his former team. You love to see that. Good for Stephon Gilmore. Now, number 2. The Browns beat the Cincinnati Bengals 41-16. What? I was expecting a good game. I was expecting a great performance. The Battle of Ohio. Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, and wow. It wasn't what I hoped. It doesn't totally make sense to me, but it does appear true that Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield is better without receiver Odell Beckham Jr. They released him, and again, I don't get it because if it's Madden, you're like, well, he's a great receiver. Better, and a quarterback, by the way, it's not Madden, it's real life, but a quarterback, you're like, you have a great receiver who's really talented. You would think that makes you better, but maybe OBJ's got a bad attitude or something. There's some reason why Baker just appears to be a better quarterback without playing with Odell Beckham Jr., and maybe it's the pressure of getting the ball. I don't know what it is, but Baker does appear to be better. He was 14 for 21 passing, 218 yards, had 2 touchdowns, had a beautiful long touchdown, 60 yards to Donovan Peoples-Jones. I love to see it. Browns running back Nick Chubb had 14 carries for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Bengals had 3 turnovers. Now, by the way, the Browns and the Bengals are now both 5-4. They are tied at the bottom of the AFC North. In fact, I think the Browns are technically ahead of Cincinnati because of the head-to-head victory. So how crazy is that? Remember when Cincinnati was 5-3, had a great start, or were they 5-2? They were 5. Yeah, they were 5-2 a couple weeks ago, and they're falling and falling and falling. And I did not see that coming. And I mean, I will say, here's something crazy. And no one talks about this. I've never talked about this before. I love Joe Burrow. I love the confidence. I love the swagger. He's on the borderline of cocky. Like the stuff he says. Sometimes he said like he was talking about the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago. And it's interesting to contrast Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. I have no doubt, because of the way our country is built, if Lamar Jackson said some of the stuff that Joe Burrow does with this, I call it confidence. It's really it's cocky is what it is. I love it, but it is cocky. Can you imagine how much Lamar Jackson would get blasted in the media if he said the stuff that Joe Burrow does? I just smoking the cigar and look up some of the quotes Joe Burrow's given. I think they're fun. I really do love them. But also, if Lamar Jackson said that stuff, unfortunately, he would get railroaded because that's how our society works. And it's just interesting to see Joe Burrow get praised for stuff that I think that, unfortunately, I wouldn't criticize Lamar Jackson for that stuff. I'd be like, that's awesome. Like, hell yeah. I love when he goes, not bad for a running back. I think Lamar Jackson's hilarious, but it's just an interesting point that I wonder if, could Lamar get away with being as audacious as Joe Burrow is? And is it just like, it's clearly, I think there might be a double standard there that not a lot of people talk about in the sports world. Now, number 3, the Jaguars beat Buffalo 9-6. What the heck happened? It's a shocking win. And I watched a little bit of the game. I can tell you what happened, but I haven't watched the full game. So maybe that's a game I should watch before next episode. So maybe, here's what we'll do. I'll watch it and I'll give you a report on Thursday, like a deep dive into what happened. But I do wonder if the Bills kind of just overlooked this game, because it's a good reminder that anyone can beat anyone. And I mean, what I did see is the Jaguars shut down the Bills offense, which is unthinkable. Josh Allen, their quarterback, had 2 interceptions. And I mean, the Bills had, what I saw, they had lots of chances. I watched the second half of that game. Chance after chance after chance late, and they couldn't score. And you're like, I just like, I mean, I remember, because I didn't watch the whole thing, but I flipped through it and I'm like, they got the ball again, they got the ball again, and they interception, fumble, turnover and downs, punt. Like, they couldn't score. Great for Jacksonville. And fun storyline here was the battle of Josh Allen's and Jags linebacker Josh Allen sacked Bills quarterback Josh Allen. He also recovered a fumble from him. He also picked him off, had an interception. Kind of funny, by the way, Josh Allen were both the number 7 overall pick in back-to-back years. 2018 and 2019 was when the linebacker Josh Allen was drafted. And I don't really know how does Josh Allen, the quarterback, win that matchup? Because statistically, like, Josh Allen, the linebacker, can sack him, can intercept him, can get a fumble recovery. But what can Josh Allen, the quarterback, do to beat Josh Allen, the linebacker? Like, run him over, or I guess win the game? Like, there's not a lot of stuff that Josh Allen, the quarterback, could have done to win that matchup. But the linebacker clearly won the game, had a bunch of plays. Like, linebacker Josh Allen won this matchup. That's pretty cool and kind of crazy. And the Bills are now 5-3. The Patriots are 5-4. So Patriots, Bills both have 5 wins in the AFC East right now. And suddenly, like that, the Patriots are not only in contention for a wild card spot, they are in contention for maybe even winning the AFC East, which would be like, the Patriots are back. What? All right. Now, I think I downplayed a little bit how much I watched of this game. I mean, look, I watched a lot of the second half. I flipped through it. I didn't watch a lot of the Jaguars' possessions. I don't care. I got limited time. But I do think it'd be really fun to, like, watch the entire... Like, I sat down and watched the entire Kansas City Packers game, watched the entire Titans Rams game, the entire Bears and Steelers game. Maybe I should sit down and watch the entire game start to finish of Jaguars Bills, because there's got to be a story there. Like, what did happen? I should break down what happened, how Buffalo lost this game. My guess is it's just they made a lot of bad plays. I mean, that's usually what happens, but maybe keep your eye out for that later this week. I might just watch it and do an entire breakdown. Now, number 4, the Broncos beat the Dallas Cowboys 30-16. Denver dominated. They were up 30-0 with 6 minutes left in this football game. And the way Denver won is how I kind of hoped they would play all year. Like, I had low expectations for Denver, but I said, like, a lot of times before the year started, like, if things go well, they got a great roster. If Teddy Bridgewater can play well, they have potential to maybe win a Super Bowl if the roster can meet its potential. They have not at all so far this year. And so the question here is, was it a fluke? Was this win beating Dallas dominantly? Is that a fluke, or is this the beginning of a good run? So the rest of the year, Denver plays the LA Chargers twice. They play Kansas City twice. They play the Eagles, the Lions, Cincinnati, and the Vegas Raiders. Let's see what happens. I have my eyes open. I want to see something interesting happen. Now, Alex wrote in on Patreon. He said, "Hey, Zach, as a Broncos fan this week, as a Broncos fan, and then a comma, this week has confused me. The first 3 weeks I felt great, though I did recognize those were easy wins. Then we lost 4 straight, and now we've beat the football team and Cowboys. I'm just wondering, given all factors, do you think the Broncos stand a shot or chance of at the playoffs?" They have a chance. The AFC is a mess, so, like, where they are now, they're 5-4. Potentially, they could get in. Or what are they? 4-3 wins. Oh no, they're 5-4. I'm not crazy. They lost 4 games in a row, then they won 2 straight now. They beat Washington and now Dallas. And Denver has my attention. They just ran for 190 yards on Dallas. That's interesting to me. They have a shot. I think any team right now in the AFC has a shot, given how crazy things are. But and they have some winnable games on their schedule. I don't have confidence they can win winnable games because I don't respect a lot of what Denver's done so far this year. But I am watching. Like, they have my attention, and we'll see what Denver can do from here on out. Now, Oliver wrote in. Oliver said, "Do you know what happened to the Cowboys? It was probably just a blip and won't affect their year long term, but it does make me question their defense." Remember, you can write in with questions on Patreon as well. Yeah, this loss was probably a blip or a speed bump, whatever you want to call it, in the Cowboys year. Like, every team has a bad loss. Like, the Bills just got embarrassed by the Jaguars. So, any given Sunday. Now, this game kind of reminds me of another Broncos team. The Boise State Broncos beat Fresno State on Saturday. And it's one of those games where, like, little mistakes add up. And a missed throw, a drop pass, a missed assignment, it all adds up. And the Cowboys had a bunch of little mistakes that all added up to a big loss on Sunday. Now, I have some concerns about the Cowboys' defense as well. That's why I list the Cowboys as a Super Bowl contender, but not a Super Bowl favorite. They do not have as complete a team as others across the NFL. But Dallas, like, I wouldn't read too much into this yet. I mean, they just won a game last week with a backup quarterback. Like, you get a bad game or two, that's what happens to every NFL team. And I look around the NFL this week, it's kind of crazy. A lot of teams appeared to have, quote, a bad game this week. Now, number 5, the Arizona Cardinals beat the 49ers 31-17. And they did it with a backup quarterback. The Cardinals were missing a bunch of players on offense. They were missing quarterback Kyler Murray, running back Chase Edmonds, 2 top receivers, DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green. And yet, Arizona won. The Texas legend, Colt McCoy, pulled it together. He won the game. Had basically a perfect backup quarterback performance. He was 22 for 26 passing with 249 yards and 1 touchdown. On top of that, James Conner had 21 carries for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. This was a low point for the 49ers. They're 3-5. They just lost to a backup quarterback. And this is year 5 as a head coach in San Francisco for Kyle Shanahan. He only has 1 winning season in 5 years, by the way. Now, that 1 winning season, they went to the Super Bowl and lost. So it's like they clearly are capable. And Shanahan's not an idiot, but he did lose his Robert Saleh, his defensive coordinator. They are not as good on defense as they used to be. And during the bad years, like, in fairness to Kyle Shanahan as well, they often had injuries at quarterback. Like, when you don't have a quarterback, it's hard to win games. We all know that. But still, I am looking kind of side at Kyle Shanahan. Like, is he going to make it? I just saw the other day, like, some number where he's got the same winning percentage as Chip Kelly in the NFL. And you're like, oh, he really has not won very much. So I'm worried. Like, ownership may not be as forgiving. They may be tired of losing and may not be very forgiving of Kyle Shanahan, the head coach of the 49ers. And I think a lot of it depends on how confident they are that Trey Lance, the rookie quarterback for the 49ers, is going to pan out. If Kyle Shanahan gets fired by the 49ers, suddenly I am very concerned about Trey Lance, because Trey Lance was drafted by them, developed by them. To have a coach who didn't draft Trey Lance come in, I don't feel the same way I do about Justin Fields. Like, Trey Lance was a bigger project, I thought. Now, had a ton of upside, but Trey Lance was a big project. They drafted Trey Lance number 3 overall because they loved what he's capable of, not where he is right now as a prospect. He played before he was ready, in my opinion, this year. And, man, that'll be interesting. If Kyle Shanahan gets fired, oh, boy. Imagine. I don't think they would do that, but ownership is fickle. You never know. Now, Mitch wrote in on Patreon, as you can do. Mitch said, "Hey, Zach, loving the show. Following up on my comment about Arizona just eating the loss to allow Murray to sit and get up to 100%. I was just wondering your thoughts. Does that make sense for a team to do in Arizona's position? I have really enjoyed watching your content. Appreciate what you do. Much love from a Portland native." I grew up in Portland. I don't live there anymore. But if you like it, good for you. I certainly didn't like it when I left. First of all, thanks for watching. You can listen to the show, by the way, on iTunes and SoundCloud and I don't actually think it's on SoundCloud anymore. Spotify, like basically wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find this show. Now, not every team has the luxury of being 7-1 like the Arizona Cardinals had going into this game. They're 8-1 now. And I say the luxury because if you're 7-1, you can potentially eat a game. Now, they didn't. Colt McCoy won them the game. And, now they kind of got the best of both worlds. They have Kyler Murray, who is now presumably fully healthy. And they're still 8-1. They won with a backup. Shout out to Colt McCoy, the hero. Like, really deserves a lot of respect for what he did. But it's a good idea, Mitch. You're onto something there. If you can afford it, if you are a great team with a good record and you feel like you can afford to lose a game, I think it makes sense to. I would be willing to lose a game if it meant my quarterback was fully healthy the rest of the year. Like, that's invaluable to have your quarterback be at 100%, fully capable, able to run as much as he wants, able to run as well as he could. I watched Matt Corral, the quarterback at Ole Miss, limp around all year, and it's like, oh man, he's been hurt for a long time. And Matt Corral is not fully healthy, and I don't know that a game off would help Matt Corral run. But I mean, I watched they had John Rice Plumlee, the Ole Miss wide receiver, former quarterback, run the zone read a couple times because they're like, Matt Corral just can't run the zone read. We need to have literally someone who run the wildcat almost who can run the ball because Matt Corral can't run the level he used to be able to. So it makes sense to eat a game in the NFL where you got a ton of games, and if you have a good record, most teams, again, can't afford that, can't afford to lose a game or risk a game. But if you feel comfortable doing that, risking the potentially losing a game. But here's the thing, if your quarterback isn't fully healthy, aren't you kind of risking a loss as well? So I don't know, man. It's a good idea, Mitch, if you can afford to lose a game, to let your quarterback sit, maybe be fully healthy the rest of the year. I think you're on to something there. It's not a terrible trade-off, Mitch.